So we all face adversity in some capacity of our life. And I think at times in the world of social media, we always want to showcase all of the highlight reels of making it look like we don't ever have challenges. However, we do face them in different ways, in different capacities. But I think when we have more transparent conversations about how we're overcoming adversity, it makes us, one, feel as if we're not doing this alone, and two, it makes us feel more human instead of shaming ourselves into things that thinking that things are not working. So I just want to say thank you for everyone tuning in today. Today we're going to be having a very awesome, amazing conversation. I have a great guest. His name is Wendell, and he's going to give you more information about who he is. But when I first met him at a networking event, because on this channel, I always talk about the importance of networking and the importance of getting out there, not just hermiting in your home, but getting a chance to know the people that are in your local community. And so today we're going to be talking about how to overcome the odds and adversity that sometimes we face, but how we can use that as part of our story when it comes to being a successful business owner. So thank you so very much for being a guest today.
So,
So tell
well,
people a
thank
little bit
you.
about who you are.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm grateful for this opportunity to share a little bit about myself and where I came from, and the adversities that I had to go through, and how it led me to where I am today. So, thank you so much for this platform and all the work that you're already doing. But I guess a little bit about myself. So, my name is Wendell Jean Jules. I am personally a business growth coach, a public speaker, an author, and then also serial entrepreneur. I own a few businesses, but one of my main business that I do own is called WJJ Brands, and that is a international business development and full service marketing agency where we essentially help people start, grow, and scale their business while helping them also build an online presence. A lot of what we do is through helping them with building strategic marketing strategies, business plans, anything digital from lead generation to SEO, graphic design, social media marketing, and really just trying to empower people as much as we can. And through that, one thing I know we will talk about today is going to be obviously my Elise Legacy program, which is basically a nonprofit version of my current business where we actually go out and we support young adults from the ages, basically from the grades of 11th grade all the way throughout college, and provide free resources to really support them in their entrepreneurial journey. So
Yes, and so now you're probably like, oh, I see why she probably had him come and talk because it's one of those things that for people that don't know who I am as well, my name is Jessie Gary. I have been in the entrepreneur space for now over 14 years. And on this channel, I love talking about all of the unsexy things about entrepreneurship. Like you can go on any other channel to get all of the clickbaity things and the things that are helpful in certain aspects of business, but also there's a place for us talking about real topics like this, or when we're talking about structures and systems, that also has a place. And I think sometimes that's not what we hear often about. So that's what we talk about mostly on this channel. So when we met and he was telling me a little bit about his story, I think that it's so phenomenal because I think that sometimes we don't always take the time to go and help others, or because we think that magically once we get to Oprah status, then something comes up and resonates inside of us. Like, you know what? Now I want to help people. Like, you can start helping people where you are right now. So I'm ready to really dig into this conversation. So the first question I do have for you is like, what is the biggest challenge you have faced with actually getting into entrepreneurship?
um, the biggest challenge, I guess there were a few, right? So obviously, like finding, where do you belong, right? In the entrepreneur world, right? I think there's so many businesses out there. There's so many people that do similar things, that in the marketing space, whether it's graphic design, web design, or just really strategy. And part of that was really just trying to figure out what is your voice, right? And how do you want to align really your full vision, and making sure that the vision that you have for yourself aligns with, how you service your clients, and those that are not clients of yours as well. So that challenge was really just trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I make the two happen, right? And align with each other. So that was probably one of the first challenges that I had to experience, um, as I was going into that transition of really finding myself, finding and understanding who I am. What are the strengths that I have? What values can I provide? And taking all those things into consideration to figure out, okay, how do I create something that could really make an impact, again, like I said, not just for my clients but also for those around me that are in the next generation that's coming after us. So that was really one of the biggest challenges. And I would say, to answer your part of how did I overcome that, probably, like,
Yeah.
right, from being able to figure out, okay, this is a challenge, how do I overcome that, really just took the the idea of really just looking within and mapping out and writing down everything, right? Writing down stuff was really one of the big things for me, of making sure that I set a game plan, right? um I'm sure you've heard before, if you don't have a plan, then you're destined to fail, right, in some degree, right? Because you're not planning for things, you're just kind of going with the flow. um and for me, planning was one of the core essential things for me, to be able to get me through that, and knowing that writing down all the strengths, writing down all of my weaknesses or opportunities, that I could explore, allowed me to narrow down what are the things that I generally want to focus on, that I'm not going to feel like, as an entrepreneur, this is just like busy work, rather than actually something that is in alignment with who I am and how I can actually make an impact.
I like the way that you broke down like how you were like evaluating your value with inside of business, but sometimes I think that we don't always understand how sometimes our past impacts how we even view ourselves in the
Mhm.
now and what we're going to do. Um, Share a little bit about like how some of your past may had even just was a barrier to even seeing yourself in the way that you wanted to, or it actually supported the way that your values were aligned.
Yeah, definitely. So growing up, I'll give you a little bit about my background, just to kind of give some context. So I was born and raised in Boston. Both, obviously, my parents were Haitian, so I consider myself Haitian American. But I grew up with a single parent. So, and my mother, she raised, three kids. One, my sister passed when I was just about to turn 4. My mother, I lost her when I was 13. My grandmother, who was very close to me as well, lost her 2 years later. So growing up, and also feeling like, hey, I didn't really have a male or father figure because he chose not to um, be present in my life, and really just taking on the responsibility of knowing, like, hey, like, I have to take control at a young age of where I want to go and my actions, and trying to be methodical about the process, that it's bigger than just me. So one experience that did happen that changed my trajectory, actually happened when I was in 11th grade. So as I mentioned earlier, we service kids from 11th grade through college. Well, 11th grade was a pivotal moment for me. The reason being was because I struggled throughout high school in my early years, but in 11th grade, I took the initiative to decide. I decided to basically join a travel club, and we went to do a missionary trip in St. Croix, where basically we were mentoring these young adults, typically from elementary to middle school, and that on the first day they asked us to share our story. And when I got up there to share my story, I literally just shared it with a group of kids, um, and I know it was obviously a bit heavy now that I think about it, but during that time, these kids came up, they embraced me, They hugged me, and then I had this one little boy who was just crying, and he was just like, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And then in my own head, I'm just like, I don't know if you want to go through what I've been through, but I appreciate that you feel that way. And he was just like, no, like I am going through everything that you're going through. Like he lost his older sibling. He was adopted by his aunt. Him and his aunt adopted him and his little sister. Didn't have a father. Like, and literally, I was just kind of that fresh breath of life that just happened to just show up and be there. And it was a confirmation to him, but also to me as well, that life is more than obviously what's in our own mind, right? I know sometimes we go through things in life, um, and sometimes they seem to very difficult, very challenging, and we never would ever think that that should be happening in our lives, right? But when it does happen, sometimes we get in our own space and feel like we're the only people that's going through it, right? But then when you realize, like, you know what, life is crazy. There's other people probably going through this, and I'm probably not the only person, or there's people going through something just as worse, right? um, then it kind of gives you that sense of humility where it makes you think like, you know what, there's more to what all this is. Maybe this is just a test, right? Maybe this is just something that God just wants me to go through so then I can inspire other people, right? And be a light to somebody else that probably didn't see the light on the other side because they felt like they're the only ones going through that same thing. So
Yeah.
through that experience, it just allowed me to really, it did light up a flame in me for years, and it still is a flame that's just still there where I just feel like I have to persevere through everything, no matter how challenging something gets, no matter how challenging business gets, no matter, whatever might happen in business, like, or life in general, like I have that need or that drive to say, you know what, if I can't get through this, then I might be blocking somebody else's blessing from them being
Yeah.
able to get to solving a problem or getting to the next place in their life or in their business.
I love your share because I think that sometimes there's this perspective that people that are able to have success or persevere, it's because they've had everything just be easy or it's given to them. Like I feel like those can be falsities that are just spread. And because one, we don't have, I feel like we don't have a lot of people that are always sharing the transparency of their road.
Yeah.
Granted, I do feel like maybe the generation before, like we know Oprah used to walk barefoot, like we know
Yep.
certain stories, but I think we just forget, like, because she's older now, we don't realize how much she struggled to even get to where she is at. And I think because some of the newer individuals that have more limelight, they don't share that part of their life. So what happens is then the masses forget about the journey of the people before us and what they had to go to. And we're like, well, what I'm going through, no one else has experienced. Like, I don't know. Yes, they have. It may not be the exact formula, but it's something that people go through. And I definitely find that this is something that impacts entrepreneurs because of what they sometimes see on social media, like even statistically on what the average businesses make when they're under 100 or over 250,000 a year, like those numbers. So what happens is that someone will think, oh, because my business didn't do $1 million this year, I'm failing, and not realizing like 1% of people have businesses that make over that. So allowing yourself grace to learn instead of giving up, because sometimes like with your background as well as I have a background that I've experienced different adversities as well, is we understand that as long as I don't give up, like I legitimately have right here on my driver's board says, I will not settle, go after it. Like
Mhm.
I feel like people that have experienced certain things, there's this tenacity of like, you will not tell me I can't do anything. And watch when I do it, I'm going to prove it. I may not, like, it's not good, and it's not from a vindictive space. It's more
I'm
like you
sorry.
can't. Yeah. Yeah. Like it's like you can't speak death over my life and what I can do. Like I've been like God has pulled me through so much and I am not going to quit now. So I think that that's something people have to resonate with.
Yeah, so one thing that I'll throw out there, which is actually one of my favorite quotes, is that even broken crayons crayon, right?
Mm.
Still color.
Yeah.
So even broken crayons still color, right? And the reason why that's one of my favorite quotes is because at the end of the day, right, we all at some point in life get broken down, right?
Yeah.
Life hits us, something happens. We get to a place where we feel like, you know what, are we even still good anymore? Are we even still right destined to be here? Or is there even more life outside of what I'm doing?
Mhm.
And sometimes you just have to look within and realize that you can still put those broken pieces together and still be able to make a masterpiece, right? Out of no matter whatever it is that you're going through in life. um and and a lot of times, really, you outside of your spiritual belief, I feel like God's in control, but at the same time, you do, he's given us free will, right? So we do have free will to be able to make the right choices down line with him, but also being able to still do great work, to really support and build people up, right? Because at the end of the day, like, community, right, is such a big thing, right? And I think as business owners, sometimes we want to do things ourselves, or we feel like we're in competition with everybody. And in those things, right, when you kind of remove yourself from that mentality of feeling like, it's you against the world, and it's kind of like, then you can actually do so much more, and make so much of a greater impact. And to one thing you mentioned earlier about, like, nobody wants to share the bad side of, like, everything that they've been through, is that it's crazy to, like, one thing I told my clients is that, especially the ones that are very perfectionist,
Mhm.
like everything has to be so perfect, is that I tell them, like, people want to see the journey you go through, right?
Yeah.
If it's so perfect at the time when you launch it, then what do you have, like, what else is there for them to expect, right?
Yeah.
And then what opportunities will you have to grow, right? Because you
Yeah.
can't grow if everything's already perfect and it's already set up exactly the way it needs to be. And life happens, things happen. COVID took out a whole bunch of businesses. If you had
Yeah.
such a perfect business at that time and it was working that way, but then COVID happened and you weren't trying to figure out new ways to innovate and pivot, then what happens, right? And then now you're back to square one again. So at the end of the day, right, it's always important, really, just to kind of understand, like, there's things that you have to be able to to like be able to share about the journey, because people want to support, right,
Yeah.
in that way too, right? And if you never tell people what you need help with, then you're going to be struggling in your own
Yeah.
silence, right? Trying to figure something out when literally it could have been one call that helps you solve, a 10-hour job that you just did, and it could have been done in 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that, like, I try to tell them. And one last thing I'm going to share is that, so for instance, for me, right, I fall into the category of sometimes being a perfectionist, right? When I
Mm.
first started my company, I know, like, doing logo designs and things of that nature, it could take me a week to 2 weeks to create a couple of mock-ups. But I knew that if I wanted to scale and grow the business, I had to take myself out of that and trust other people and
Yeah.
hire people that understand the level of perfectionism and quality, but can do it at a more efficient pace. So the first person I hired was a graphic designer, and till this day, he's still with us. But for the most part, he can design logos in a day, right? And now, obviously, with training, going through
Yeah.
the process and pouring into them, pouring into my staff, pouring into them, and making sure that they understand the level of quality and the things that we're looking for, then now it's like I don't have to go back and forth trying to figure out, hey, did you do this, or did you create these versions of these logos, did you do that? Because there's a process, right? And
Yeah.
as you go through it, you're going to realize, like, if you can take what's out of your head and document it, and then be able to pass it on and delegate, it saves you so much time and allows you to be more flexible and get so much more done.
Yeah. And one of the things with even what you shared, it immediately made me think of a story recently with a friend. She has a clothing brand. And she was facing some adversity with inside of the clothing brand with continuing funding. It's a seven-figure um, clothing brand, retail clothing brand. She's been doing it for 10 years. And when I saw she did a post about a month ago about a Kickstarter, my immediate response, girl, I'm sorry that you're going through this. However, I have faith that you doing this outside of your comfort zone, amazing things are going to happen. However, it's going to work out. Because the biggest thing about the biggest lesson I personally have had to learn inside of entrepreneurship is one, I don't know it all. Two,
Mm-hmm.
there are people that are willing to work with you. Because even on the other side, I have a vendor that works with me in my event business, and she referred someone to me, and she's like, Jesse, I love her. So she watches the video, and me and her, we have honest conversations, and she was like, don't take it personal that I'm having these conversations. I'm like, no, I was like, but I'm here because I understand that there's things you can learn from me. It's like I will never hold what we talk about against you because I understand too where you are in your business. What I hope is that in time you will learn. But the whole thing with her, she had referred someone to me, and the person was getting more bookings. However, this other person hasn't given me any of the things I keep asking her for. I was like, so she's like, now it makes me leery to give out recommendations for people. And I was like, well, I want to be honest with you. If you weren't giving me what I needed, I was going to find someone else that was. So I'm like, it's your own doing. And I was like, and I say that with love. It's not because I don't like working with you. It's not, I'm like every month, every quarter when I'm requesting stuff, I make sure you're still in those emails. But until you did what I needed you to do, the only thing that was getting you in the way was you. It wasn't because you referred this other person because I have plenty enough work for the both of you. But if you don't give me what I request, I can't get you work. And I think that sometimes what happens, and I was saying to her, I was like, the reality is by you not being a blessing to someone else, there's gonna be a moment when you're going to need that blessing. And I was like, that's where it becomes, are you going to be who you would want someone to be for you and your business? Or are you going to have, to kind of hoard information? And that was one of the things like with your share, it was like made me think of that conversation. And we always have honest conversations anyway. So she took what I said, and I also know like she's still gonna probably not share, but that's where she is in her leadership, and that is also a part of us overcoming is like allowing ourselves to grow mentally and how we relate to people. However, going back to my friend that has the boutique, up to the last couple of hours, she was able to surpass the goal by $21,000. She was sharing her journey of pitching for people to, because it's a size inclusive brand and people, some investors don't want to do things for plus size. And so she was very transparent about this journey. And I was like, I know this is like, oh my gosh, it's almost getting me emotional right now thinking about it. But I was just like, I know this is going to work for you. I'm like, I don't know how it's going to. I know I can't personally contribute, but I'm like, I know there's going to be someone that either watches this or people are going to get so behind the mission. But if our past experiences are really buffering us from allowing blessings to happen in our lives, or for us to grow in leadership, because that's the other person, or for us to grow into leadership, those are the things that ultimately prevent us sometimes from having what we want. And like now, it's like she's like, oh my gosh, and she posted and she was emotional, and everybody, I was like, I was emotional now. But it's just like if we don't allow those spaces and whatever we need to overcome and allowing us to have someone hold for us, it's just like it's a part of us growing as people, but most importantly, growing as business owners and leaders.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you on that. And one thing that came to my mind again as you were speaking is mindset, right? A lot of
Yeah.
what you were bringing up is mindset, right? Her feeling like, you know what, I need to take, there's another way and I'm going to try this way to basically see if this will yield me something else, right?
Yeah.
And just knowing like that there's opportunities there, um because either it's been done or just going through the experience now with her being able to do that, she can now be a blessing to somebody else because she's gone through that process which
Yeah.
she's never done before, right? And now that opened up her mind even more to know that there's even more possibility out there to do other things and raise funding in other ways, right?
Yeah.
If she chose to explore that. Um, and then the second thing behind the mindset is obviously, you know, what you speak into your life and the business, right, that you have, right? The other thing too is like, what are you telling yourself when it comes to your business, right?
Yeah.
Um, and words are very powerful, right? At the end of the day. So if you're saying, oh, well, this business is not doing well, right? And you know, it's you know, I'll never make it to this number, or this company will never make this goal, right? If you're already speaking negative energy into your business, then the likelihood of that happening is probably really high because, right, you already blocked off
Yeah.
your your mindset to say, like, you know, I'm ready to receive, right? Being in a space of being able to receive, like, whatever it is that's coming to you in abundance, right? And that in itself, I feel like when you start looking at it just from, you know, just a financial monetary aspect, then again, I understand finance does play a huge role in a lot of people's business, relationships, marriage, whatever it is that you probably value, however you value money in that regards. But the other thing I tell people is that human capital is probably the biggest currency that anybody can ever have, right?
Yeah.
Um, and and sometimes it could be that if you're doing something that's taking you so much more time, there's a value associated to that, right? Your time is actually worth something. And sometimes people don't realize that they're giving away their time, right?
Yeah.
And time is not something you can ever get back. So if you're looking at it from that perspective, then if you're going to spend 4 or 5 months trying to figure something out rather than just finding somebody that is an expert in that one thing you're trying to figure out, learning from them, which might take way less than the 4 to 6 or a year time frame that you're going to try to do it on your own. What does that do for you? But what does that do for your business, right?
Yeah.
That frees up your time. That frees up your time to be able to do other things, spend time with your family, go out, hang out, do the things you love. But then also now having a human asset that you can trust and go through the process in exchange for service, right? And sometimes some of you guys might be thinking, okay, well, if I bring in somebody else, that's going to cost me money. Of course, sometimes it can, or if it's a strategic partnership and let's say you offer a service that they need, right?
Yeah.
You guys could do an exchange of service, right? An
Yeah.
exchange of service is the same thing. You're giving your time to help them with something, and they're giving their time to help you with something. But then now there's no financial capital exchange,
Yeah.
but you now have learned and been able to do something that would have taken you way longer, and same thing for them, right? So again, just being open minded to realizing that there's way more than just the finance, right? When it comes to business, and knowing that there's an abundance. Like God's already equipped us with everything and the resources that we need. We just have to be very intentional in figuring out how do we piece all those puzzles together.
Yeah. And one thing that I'm always reminded of with like even with what you were sharing is like what you believe is possible and what you believe is not possible is always going to be a reflection in your actions. So
Correct.
if you don't think that it really is going to work, we're not aware of how we're subconsciously, and then what happens is that one, you probably aren't going to do enough effort.
Yep.
Two, you're not going to look at ways to improve. It's like you're just gonna like, okay. And then three, you're just going to find proof that it's not working. So
Yep.
what happens is you just build up this case for it to not work. However, when you are in a space like, oh, this can work, then you'll be like, okay, all right, let me keep like we're not present to like how much our beliefs really dictate how much effort and energy we put towards the things we say that we care about. But we are mentally blocking ourselves from actually going after those things.
Oh, 100%. And I see it all the time. I talk to over 500 business owners a year.
Mhm.
And trust me, like it's insane as to like how many people have great ideas and, you know, they've started a business, but then because of this limited belief that they're not good enough or that they can't do something, or because they don't feel like they're qualified, or because they feel like nobody's going to pay for what they want to charge for their services. Like they have all of these notions in their mind that literally stops them from being able to take the next step. I've had a
Yeah.
conversation. I can remember one conversation I had. One lady, she was trying to start basically this healthcare type business, and literally I had a few conversations with her. I even extended a free complimentary consultation with her as well, because I generally believed in what she was getting ready to do, and I generally don't do that as far as like giving extra time, because at that point I jam pack all my sessions with one. Like you get so much value off of one call, so
Yeah.
it's for me. It's like if I'm gonna give you another session, like I'm stepping out to tell you, I really generally believe in what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went above me on and did that too, to the point where the third time when I called her just to follow, I'm like, hey, you say you're ready to make the next steps, you're ready to do this, right? And it was just like, oh, I'm out shopping, you know. I'm like, so are you gonna take the next step?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't know yet, you know. And they were just kept coming with all these excuses. I'm like, if you took whatever money you're about to go spend shopping, invested in yourself
Mhm.
to do something, and we started this process the first time we spoke with you, you could be so much further than where you are now, where now you probably never started it, right? Because you just have this belief that, well, you know what, like I'm gonna come up with whatever excuses to not do something that I know I want to do, that you're passionate. You keep going back to this, I'm passionate about this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But if you never take the first step, or at least the next step, then, you know, as much as, you know, we can jump in and try to support and help you, but, you know, it really starts with you, right? You're your own advocate. You know, you're the person that is going to dictate what's going to happen next, right?
Yeah.
In your business, in your life, right? And of course, there's things outside of our control. And that's one thing I had to learn growing up, right? And I went to therapy, right? There's
Yeah.
things that I believe in, right? That, you know, therapy was a huge thing for me. And that's why it's one element that's built into my program, because I generally feel like as young adults, this next generation that's coming in, like if we can help them understand what their belief system looks like, right? And sometimes that limited belief comes from you just basically a family member that told you couldn't do something, or a
Yeah.
family member did it that never has done something that you want to do, and they're only going to guide you in the direction of what they know, right?
Yeah.
Typically that's parents, right?
Yeah.
And typically with parents, again, I had situations like my aunt, I love her to death, but for her, you know, the idea when I told her, hey, I'm going into business for myself, you know, I'm moving to another country to grow my team and start and like build my business. It was just like, why would you do that? There's no security in that. You need insurance, you need this, you need that. But she came from a background of, I'm going to stay at a job for 26 years. I'm going to work there no matter how bad it is. Like, this is the mentality. Like, I'm, as long as I have my benefits and I can pay my bills and take care of my family, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
I'm coming from a generation where that's not the norm for me, right? I want
Yeah.
more than that. I want to feel respected in what I do. I want to be able to contribute the way I want to contribute. I want to be able to support people the way that I want to support them without the restrictions of having to worry about somebody else dictating if I'm able to do it or not, right?
Yeah.
So those are the things that drive me, even though somebody else had a limited belief. But if I just chose to take her belief of, no, just go back to work, just do that, and just work a full-time job and get your benefits, then where would I be now? I probably wouldn't have had a successful business, just choosing to go with somebody else's limited belief, which a lot of people do. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to trust in yourself and know that you have the power and the resources and the capability to be able to do the things that you're generally seeking. If something's been laid on your heart to do it, why not explore it? What's the worst that can happen? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. But I'm glad that you mentioned that because, like, I feel that therapy is great. It's something I've definitely taken advantage of at different points of my life and career. And I've even done personal development seminars and things like that because mindset and mental health are very important. And it's even more important, in my opinion, when it comes to entrepreneurship, because you're almost every day triggering yourself in some kind of triggering whatever your trigger is, because we all have different triggers.
yeah,
So is learning how to, okay, this isn't real. Okay, this is what's really happening. And then realizing, like, how do you overcome that and see yourself for who you really were created to be and what you get to add value in this world as? And like, even with myself, someone asked, like, how do you do content consistently or whatever they perceive as that? I was like, well, the biggest thing for me is I no longer am attached to it being perfect. Like, legitimately, I see YouTubers that are doing videos of eating crumbled cookies in their car with bad lighting. Like,
yeah,
I will never sit here at this point now and say, yes, it's great to have certain types of stage lighting and things like that. And when I can, I will. And when I don't, I just do my best. And I think that letting go of the mindset of everything having to be perfect was something that I had to really embrace. And one of the things that I had to attack, even with mindset, is like my father was very hard on me with terms and vernacular and the way that I spoke. So all the way up until legitimately probably 2016, I felt as if I was a poor speaker. I felt as if I talked like I was uneducated. And then I was talking to someone in one of the personal development seminars, and it's just like, what? And then so I was like, well, maybe if I go to Toastmasters, I'll feel more confident. And then I went to Toastmasters, and I'm speaking, and I'm getting awards, and they're just like, but what made you come here? I was like, well, I thought I was a horrible public speaker and I thought I didn't sound like I was educated. And they were like, I would have never guessed that. And that's because of someone else's viewpoint of the way that I spoke. And that's what is
mhm.
important when it comes to mindset. So the last question I would love to have you chime in on is like for you when it comes to mindset, do you do books or what do you specifically do so that you're tackling your daily mindset or just growing, in that direction.
Yeah. So I guess I'll keep it simple. I love to sleep. So
Okay.
so sleeping is like one of my mindset mechanisms, I guess, of just being able to be calm and relaxed. I could sleep through anything, honestly. I know some people can't, but sleep is like my go-to. But outside of that, really, it's just I would say hanging out with my family, my wife, my dog. Like they just make the days go by and just takes my mind off of things. And then also I'm very disciplined in like my schedule, right? I think that plays a huge role. I don't work Saturday and Sundays, so those are like no work days for me.
Mhm.
I know as business owners, the way I look at it is if Chick-fil-A can take Sunday off, every entrepreneur needs to take at least one day off to recharge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I take
Yeah.
my 2 days, and it's so important, right? Because at the end of the day, you need a fresh mindset. Like I came from obviously a fast-paced city. I lived in Boston, New York, France, North Carolina, not as fast, but overall, like I was always in this go 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 mentality of just like I have to be doing something, right? And it's not until I moved to North Carolina where it was a little bit more slow paced and I was forced to take 2 days off that I realized how important like having days off was, right? It allowed me to refocus. It allowed me to plan out my next steps. It allowed me to reevaluate, where am I? What do I need to do to prepare for next week and get things going versus just I'm just like go, go, go constant and then still trying to make time for other things, right?
Yeah.
So prioritizing yourself, I think, is really important. And just really being able to understand, like, okay, what makes me happy outside
Yeah.
of business, right? My
Yeah.
conversations with clients or new potential clients or anybody I meet, anyways, whenever I have a sit down or just a one to one, anyways, always starts with people first, right? Who are you, right? what
Yeah.
gets you out of bed, right? What makes you happy? What activities do you like to do? Like, because before business there's a human being behind that, right?
Yeah.
Every single business came and started with somebody, right? And
Yeah.
before that person started, they were somebody doing something, or that something motivated them, or they wanted to do something better than what they saw before, or they had an idea. So for me, it's just exploring the person in general, right? If you can understand who you are, and being able to resonate with how do you deal with stress. And I
Yeah.
rarely get stressed. I don't know how. Obviously, like I said, for me, I, I'm just one of those. I guess I'm an anomaly in my own way, but I don't really get stressed when it comes to life in general. I think because I've been through so much in my life that I just don't let it get to me as much anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, sleep, like I said, finding things that you enjoy doing, and prioritizing that outside of business. Less business talk on the days that you have off, right? Those are
Yeah.
really important mechanisms, to, just really charging up yourself and your mindset. Um, Planning is another thing. So I always start off my week knowing, what am I tackling this week? What is the most important? What can be put on the back burner, right? And
Yeah.
then by the end of Friday, I need to know, what did I accomplish and what do I need to prepare for, so next Monday I'm already ready to go and I can take a look at my list and just keep tackling things, right?
Yeah.
So I think all of those put together really should help, anybody who's really just trying to figure out, like, how do you cope with being a business owner, right?
Yeah. Awesome. So thank you so very much. And I would love for you to share, how can people continue to reach out and get to know you better?
Awesome. Yeah. So, um, as a brand and digital marketing person, if you type in my name, I pretty much own all of Google for my name. So, yeah, you'll be able to connect with me on any platform, honestly. Like any social media, you put my name in, you'll find me. I'm on a website. And then for my company, WJJ Brands, same thing. We own that entire page on Google. So you put that in, you're guaranteed to fall on something of ours, that you can connect with us on. But yeah, anyone who wants to learn more or connect, I would love to extend a free complimentary, strategy session with anybody who's interested. Just fill out the form, let me know that you saw this, and I would love to pour into you and your business. And just like I said, I'm an open book. God's put me on this earth to share this information, so it's not for me only; it's for those that are around me. So, thank you.
Fantastic. And I'll make sure that I put his links in the caption or description of this video so that you're able to stay connected. So thank you all for watching this video. And as always, keep looking for more and searching for more. I'm ready.
Awesome, thank you.